Oklahoma. What are
It's
you
Oklahoma.
doing? What are you
It's
doing?
Oklahoma.
I told you to remember that number that I told you last segment.
I know what you're talking about. Can I say it?
10.1
Per
yards per
play.
play. TCU
Every
Yep.
is.
time TCU snapped the ball, they on average got a first down.
Hey,
It's Oklahoma.
I'm going to give you two more numbers 41, 55. So called the best defensive coordinator in football, coming off one of the most prolific defenses ever in that Clemson program. He comes in, and in his first two conference games, he allows 96 points. Not to mention, probably, I'm not going to go out on a limb, but I'd say top three quarterbacks in the Big 12 is coming back to play you next week. And what's probably one of the most important games in the season, not in terms of the overall impacts, but just in the weight of the game.
And it's not clear yet if OU's going to have their starting quarterback.
That's
ready.
another big
TCU
thing.
knocked him out,
Well, I doubt that. I think he went into concussion protocol.
so he's not coming back probably.
I doubt it.
So what if I told
let
you
me
that?
throw this out. Let me throw this out at you. Turnovers: Oklahoma had 1, TCU 0. Pretty tight. First downs: Oklahoma had 22, TCU had 29. Not too terribly off. Time of possession: Oklahoma 27, TCU 33. Not too far off. But it's what TCU did with their plays. Total yardage was almost double. It was like 350 to almost 700 yards for TCU.
And they put in backups. But Quentin, go ahead. I know you're trying to talk.
Well, what if I told you that 55 to 24 was closer than it was?
It was worse than that.
TCU didn't put the ball in the end zone in the fourth quarter at all.
Oklahoma scored 14, I think, in the fourth quarter, and TCU led up.
TCU stopped. Oklahoma scored 7 in the fourth, and TCU scored none. TCU stopped pushing the ball because at that point there was no point.
They put their backups in. They were just running the ball.
Another stat. What if I told you that Lincoln Riley's brother was TCU's offensive coordinator?
The Rileys have not been kind to OU in the last 9 months.
Something to think about.
They shouldn't.
Yep, and I wouldn't either.
They shouldn't be. Well, I mean, I feel like they were the most overrated team going into the season, in my opinion, other than, my deep hatred for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Here's my concern about next week's game between OU and Texas. OU, I think, is the early favorite, which is kind of surprising.
Texas is a 7-point favorite.
Texas is a favorite.
Texas by 6? I thought it was OU by 6.
Texas by 6.
Okay.
It's Texas.
Well, so
Texas by 7 now.
Here's my dilemma. This is a rivalry game, and to some extent, you can throw out who's good, who's bad, who's got a winning record, who's got a losing record. Oklahoma has not lost 2 games in a row, I think, since '99, and so that's going to be tough for me to pick against OU losing 3 straight.
Please pick them.
Everything says Texas is going to win this game, which means what does that mean? When everything says Texas is supposed to do something,
they're not going to win.
That's my dilemma. I mean, can I pick 2 losers in this game?
I think it's a battle to see who could lose this game the best.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna rein it back into like this game and just Oklahoma in general because trust me, we're gonna talk plenty about Texas OU this on Thursday, but really the issue with this game, and really just an issue with the way that coaching is handled nowadays. Marcus Freeman, he started off 0-3 as the Notre Dame head coach. Brent Venables loses his first 2 games in the conference. And honestly, just to touch on this really quick, I think this shows us how bad Nebraska really is. Because they got blown out by this team. And so if they couldn't even test Oklahoma, Oh, that looks bad. Good thing that they've made some changes. But really, I think this tells you that you can't transfer portal your way to a conference championship year one. And second,
Unless you're USC because you're playing in the worst conference.
they got tested last week, and they're going to get tested several more times this year. I just don't
They
think
got
that
tested 2 weeks in a row.
I
yeah.
don't.
I'm just saying, I believe they're the transfer team, the most likely transfer team to win their
And it's also the weakest conference, so I think there's less to say there.
Other than the SEC.
Oklahoma's playing in the Pac-12 this year. I think that's where they've been the last 2 weeks. And,
with
really,
the addition of Jordan Addison.
Yeah. But pretty much what you have here is with Marcus Freeman, with Brent Venables, because those are really the guys I can think of that are getting their first head coaching opportunity at a major institution. And you can't just put them on the biggest stage and expect them to do great. You can't hand them the keys to that and just expect no growing pains. Because I think that you're going to get this stuff like this. Flat out, they got out-coached. They got out-coached last week, and they got out-coached this week. And it's because he doesn't have any head coach experience. And we haven't even really seen him in a tight game. Think about clock management. Think about subbing in guys, getting them rest, playing for overtime, stuff like that. I mean, there's so much situational football that you only learn on the job. And so some people have it, some people don't. And I'm not saying he's never coached a football team before, but this is a completely new beast than being a coordinator.
Yeah.
You're not
or that he won't be good in the future, but
it's just
he's definitely showing his inexperience at being a head coach.
Yeah, I mean it's you just can't fake experience. You can't fake going through it. So you got to go through a little bit of this to get better.
Well, it's only going to get tougher too when they leave the Big 12 and move into the SEC.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be something different.
Not everyone can be an A&M and get a 10-win team the first year in a conference. So just if we're talking way in the future, if I'm Texas or Oklahoma, you got to be patient.
Patient for 2025.
Well, yeah, I mean Texas, you don't have to be patient right now. You got everything you need to win and compete in the conference right now. But I'm talking once you go into the SEC, you're going to have a little bit of patience because it is going to be an adjustment. And I think that's mainly what you're seeing. Oklahoma's a talented team. They got a lot of guys. But, I mean, they got out-coached and they got out-performed and they got out-hustled. And something you got to do, you do have to be concerned about is if you're going to come back from a loss, like if you lose that tough game to Kansas State, you got to have a bounce-back game the next week. And because this is their second straight time where they're going to be on the road. And I know it's a neutral site, but they're not at home. They got to make a trip again. They're pretty much going the same distance as they went for TCU. And so I definitely think, I know we said we're talking about it later, but I definitely think this is a rough spot for Oklahoma to be in. Texas got them between a rock and a hard place. And so that's just a quick preview. We'll get into it more.
OU is 0-2 in conference play and literally probably at this point needs a miracle to get into the championship game.
Yeah. All right.
Well, and that could happen in the Big 12.
It could.
We're running a little behind now.
The first thing that has to happen is they have to win out.
Yeah.
We gotta speed things up here.